Today, I invite you to recognize the marvelous planet we inhabit, which is called to transformation from each one of us, as it is nothing but a reflection of the energies and levels of consciousness that we handle both individually and collectively. Each determination, whether conscious or unconscious, that we have made has led our planet to be what it currently is, and each determination that we are going to make from now on is nothing but a force of change, one that becomes unstoppable and is moving our humanity and our planet from what it currently is to the wonder it can become. That's why we are all invited to recognize this change that is now brewing and seeking to bring that place we inhabit to its best version, being able to see how before this, all those erroneous structures that have been built from unconsciousness and lack of consideration to the principles to which all souls attend are being destroyed. Our souls are perfectly calibrated with love, understanding, forgiveness, unity, and cooperation. But somehow, when we arrived here, we were educated to go to extremes far from these. It is precisely this that is causing this change we are experiencing to be so abrupt and leaving so many souls in uncertainty to see everything falling around us. But this has not prevented our souls from being part of the change and advancing confidently in everything that is happening for the benefit of all humanity and the space it inhabits. However, there is a small group of souls that has been left behind, all thanks to the fear they experience from change and other factors that are extremely interesting to analyze. Today, I invite you to explore the reasons why some people fail to accept this transformation that the Earth is undergoing and the ways it will benefit us. Because from understanding and accepting the mistakes that some are falling into, we can make a great change. The purpose of today's journey will undoubtedly be to help those souls become aware of the limiting conceptions and ideas that are preventing them from joining the force of change that is guiding this transformation of the Earth. Because even though you may fear it at times, you're also in control of what happens, and it only depends on you to make this transition more harmonious or difficult than it currently is. That's why I invite you to explore hand in hand with me all the factors that may be influencing and blocking many people in relation to this issue. And I guarantee you that from accepting true knowledge and breaking down those mental barriers that dominate you, you will make the most of this moment, which brings a universe of possibilities at its core. Number 1. Resistance to evolution. It's wonderful to see how many people close themselves off to evolution, and although it sounds impossible considering the nature of the human being, it's a reality that has been affecting us and has caused a few to lag behind in the midst of this migration and leap of consciousness that we are going through, and that translates into this important change. We were created and placed in this universe, and from that moment on, we have done nothing but evolve, adapting our being and our anatomy to what we were experiencing over time, undergoing transformations that, although subtle, never stopped. That's why the idea that someone feels reluctant to evolution is so difficult for many to assimilate, because from their conscious side, they have appreciated the way we always change and the good things we achieve as a result of it. However, the way this important change is presented to us today seems to cause some to feel reluctance, close themselves off, and enter into conflict with this idea and what is being experienced, making this process a bit more difficult and delayed. But it's important to remember at all times that everything we currently know is the result of the countless changes that the Earth and its different social groups have experienced over the years. While we may not know exactly the landscape that will unfold for us in the future, we must trust that as everything allowed for the Earth so far has been beneficial for its existence and the existence of humanity. As we awaken in consciousness and join this path of balance and reflection, we are causing changes and transformations in our reality, not only individually, but also collectively. Every detail that we know and perceive with our senses is one that has been designed from the mind of each individual, and the universe only manifests it in the reality of the Earth. So it's important to accept that even the things we consider negative or bad are a product of ourselves. So everything that displeases us can be corrected. aided by the other souls that inhabit this space alongside us, and with a deep commitment to this powerful, magical, and precious transformation. Leaving behind this conflict with evolution invites us to take the course of this journey and the destiny of the Earth into our own hands, being able to have a notable influence on what is experienced and how things are now going to be presented, making them a little more pleasant for you and beneficial for humanity. Only from accepting our responsibility in this change can we ensure that the space we inhabit appears in the way that is most friendly and pleasant for us and each and every soul that inhabits the Earth. Number 2. Fear of losing control. Although many of us recognize that control is nothing more than an illusion that exists on Earth, there are still people who cling to this illusion, who see it as certain and harbour a deep fear of losing control over the things around them. This is perhaps one of the most common mistakes we humans make, as somehow we think that we won't be okay if we accept that not everything is under our control. But at this point, I invite everyone to reflect and to answer this question honestly. How much of what we experience is under our control? Although you may wish to cling to that mistaken idea, we must accept that much of what happens in our lives is not under our control, but remains under the control of the universe and the forces that govern it, upon which we depend to take the next steps. Depending on external factors in certain things is not actually a bad thing, nor is it something to be ashamed of. It's just a part of our reality that we cannot change. However, there is also another very important aspect to all of this, one that we must bring up and examine if we want to break down those ideas and fears that are preventing us from taking an active role in this change on Earth, as well as beginning to flow with it in the best way possible. And that is that although the universe dictates its laws and has ways and things in which our influence is minimal, the reality that exists within it, and of which we are the owners, is largely our responsibility, meaning that we are the ones who shape this reality in the way we want to live it, and the universe projects it in harmony with itself. This means that if we start taking into account how we influence the change and how everything and every aspect of our reality will be shaped after it, the only way we can continue to have control over what we experience is by accepting this change and working on it. Only our determination to become active agents in the midst of this change will allow us to continue to be in control and command of what we live and wish to experience. Understanding that to build what we eagerly visualize, we must first destroy those old social and personal structures that we have created, starting from there to put together all the pieces that integrate that ideal reality for us. So if in any way you are afraid of losing control over what we are experiencing as humanity, you can only face this fear by accepting an active role in everything that is happening. Number 3, preserving the status quo. This may be a difficult point to confront because it speaks to the way in which we ourselves, or rather a small part of ourselves, avoid change by obeying the desire to preserve structures and forms of existence that benefit personal interests over the interests of the collective. Our soul is connected to the souls of all other people who inhabit the Earth, and one of the elevated principles with which civilizations that are above ours align is that of unity. While each one lives their own reality, we are not isolated individuals who exist independently of each other, inhabiting the same space while maintaining our own principles and obeying our interests. On the contrary, we are souls intertwined with each other, needing to accept that our own well-being affects each of them, but also that their well-being affects our lives and how we manage to be well. That is why the higher realms of our vibration always aim to achieve collective well-being and to frame things in a way that this aspect of our existence can prevail, understanding that from this point, the well-being and perfect reality of each of the members is guaranteed. This implies a strong demolition of the political, social, and human structures that we have created and sustained, which were introduced seeking the well-being and benefit of a small group of souls. But if we trust that this remodeling of our societies is beneficial, and dare to move forward with confidence, contributing what is our energetic and human share, we can be the forerunners of a change that will place humanity as a whole in a new dimension, more perfect and full of light. According to great researchers and enlightened minds, among whom we find Dolores Cannon, humanity as a whole aspires to make that conscious leap to the fifth dimension, where we can dwell guided by elevated principles, and where the manifestation of each of the desires of all the souls of the world will be possible. But accessing this place will only be possible if we set aside individualism and the desire to preserve things in the known form, and dare to snatch control and benefits from a single group of souls, so that now that goodness can be given to each and every form of life inhabiting the earth. Although this may sound like a fairy tale scenario, it is something possible, and it is something that will happen in one way or another. So our reluctance to participate in this transformation will only end up wearing us down, all because of the impulse to remain in our comfort zone and the interest of a few to continue imposing their interests over those of others. Number 4. Manipulation tactics. Another factor that is preventing humanity as a whole from fully enjoying this awakening of consciousness that is happening and manifesting through change are the manipulation tactics that a small group is employing to thwart this beautiful event. Although people may not want to accept it, there are things that escape our control, and among them is the malice or the selfish and arbitrary way in which some act seeking to put their needs and benefits above the well-being of the rest of souls. But this is one of those aspects that can be completely demolished from our desire for change and commitment to it, because from there is where we will manage to make our society a more perfect and conducive one for everyone to have what they desire. But this is something that people aligned with low vibrational frequencies do not understand, and they feel from that vibration and their limited level of consciousness that if humanity and the earth advance toward that new state, everything will be finished and they won't be able to have the things they long for. And this cannot be a more mistaken and selfish idea, because in reality, what will happen is that based on the elevated principles that will now be established in humanity, collective well-being will be the main concern, and therefore the well-being and perfect reality of each one will be safeguarded and guaranteed. But this is something that very few understand, and therefore they prefer to continue acting against this change and in favour of the interests that dominate them, seeking to maintain those benefits that a state of unconsciousness, like the one we currently have, provides them. However, we cannot allow the interests of a few to determine the course or destiny of all humanity, much less that such an important moment as the one we are experiencing be frustrated by a few souls vibrating discordantly with the rest. And it is that all the souls of the world are awakening and are raising the vibration and level of consciousness that humanity is handling to a much higher frequency, from which we access these wonders that are incredible and undesirable for a small group. Therefore, in safeguarding our process and our growth as humanity, we must know how to distinguish the tactics used on us to stop this change, among which we can find fear, manipulation, and of course, the insertion of erroneous ideas that paint completely opposite scenarios from the one we have set before us. We are the guardians and responsible for ensuring that this transformation and awakening flow, so it is time to take our responsibility in the midst of everything and put our inner power and our light into action. Number 5. They present an illusion of stability. There is not a single soul in the universe that does not desire the long-awaited stability for its existence and also for the surrounding environment, and it is that which a reduced group of souls grasp onto to maintain the level of unconsciousness that has been managed up to now. That is why they seek to create in the souls around them an illusion of stability from which any alteration or step taken will end up affecting the reality and the comfort zone in which one lives in the worst way possible. But this is an idea that is quite easy to dismantle and that we will explore from logic at this moment. The first thing to consider is that we are beings of change. That is, it is in our nature to move, transform and perfect ourselves, So stability only implies standing still and avoiding evolution from reaching us when it has always been an important part of who we are and where we are going. We cannot fear advancing because we think that somehow we will live unsteadily. For although there are parts of our journey that are not regular, these are only pieces of the great path we are traveling in search of individual and collective elevation and improvement. The fear of losing the apparent calm we possess can make many people paralyzed, but this is partly caused by the lack of confidence we have in ourselves and our abilities, because deep down, we are all endowed with the strength and skills necessary to achieve absolutely everything we desire and to make our being flow in tranquility and harmony with the universe and with everything that is presented to us. The ability to adapt and to maintain harmony in our environment is an integral part of us, and there is no way we will abandon it or cease to possess it, so thinking that we will lose our stability is nothing more than an excuse to avoid facing the wonderful reality that we are about to experience. We cannot allow a small group of people to take this fear within us and stagnate us from it, for those people know how marvelous things are just steps away from us, and in their selfishness, they plan to make us stop and not embrace that new reality. Stability is something we will achieve in each of the scenarios and places where we are placed, and an important part of this is to remember that no one will simply place us in an unknown and hostile environment, but rather our own soul is the one leading this journey, and will adapt the terrain so that we can dwell there in well-being. Number 6. They present change as a threat to the established order. This is perhaps another variation of the different tactics employed by a small group of people to prevent our souls from progressing and reaching that new level of consciousness that leads us to a more perfect reality. According to the ideals that these souls espouse, the way things are currently structured generates a kind of order, correct and perfect for societies and humanity in general. But it is here where it is up to us to evaluate how much of that is true, for we must observe in an impartial and objective manner the way reality on Earth is currently presented, in which there is a notable imbalance between what some souls possess in contrast to what many need and lack. This undoubtedly does not represent an adequate or equitable order. So the question arises, what if the current order is actually the disorder and imbalance of things? This invites us to reflect on the blindfold that we have allowed to be placed over our eyes for so many years, in which we have been made to believe that there is no different reality from the one we lived, and there was no way we could balance things. But with this awakening and the possibility of change, the narrative has changed, and they try to convince us that the way everything is currently structured is actually the correct way things should be. Ultimately, there is something in the midst of these versions that does not fully convince or fit, and it is there where we find the aspect that completely undermines the lie that is being sold to us under the name of absolute truth. What we are experiencing is not really a state of order or balance, but rather an illusion sold to keep things as they have been for so long, benefiting a few and depriving a large number of souls of opportunities for fulfillment. Objectively, we must be able to reject these ideas and dare to live the change that the universe is promoting for our souls, in which there is a great deal of energetic influence seeking to help humanity rise to a new state of consciousness, from which a better and more suitable reality will be constructed for all who inhabit the earth. True order will be achieved from a vibrational frequency more aligned with higher frequencies, and from a new state of consciousness, in which we will settle thanks to this awakening and beautiful transformation, being able to enhance its effect by uniting more souls to this path of light and knowledge that is presented to us. Number 7. Intense attachment to power. This point speaks to one of the main reasons why certain souls seek to prevent this awakening of consciousness in humanity, and to stop at all costs the transformation that the planet is undergoing as a result. It is clear that in the way we have lived, a few have ended up obtaining certain powers or privileges above other souls, which has only generated in those same souls a strong and disproportionate attachment to the current state, which is being threatened by the awakening of consciousness of all the souls that cohabit with use. For this reason, these individuals are acting in the way they are, seeking at all costs to hinder the progress of humanity, as they adamantly refuse to release that power and the benefits that come with it. Establishing a society that is more equitable and equal would imply that they would no longer be above other souls, causing an intense emotional shock that arises from this attachment, an attachment that once again is directed toward an illusion, as what they know as power is not really what it should be. True power does not come from a position of superiority over others. In reality, this only makes you susceptible to selfish and vain energies and feelings, which only end up lowering your energetic levels and the vibrational frequency with which you align yourself. Real power comes from within each of us, and it arises when we become aware of our being and the abilities that adorn it, as a result of which we manage to place ourselves in true control of everything that touches our reality and affects our lives. But making these individuals understand this proves to be a titanic and truly difficult task, as the sensation that being above others has generated in them has caused their souls to lose the right path and to drift away to distant lands from which it is difficult to return. However, these souls are not lost, and we must bear in mind that thanks to the connection we have between us, everything we do for our own benefit and for humanity will inevitably have an impact on them. In other words, from the light and consciousness we generate within ourselves, we can bring light and consciousness to them, ensuring that at some point they reconnect with use and we all dwell in harmony in this new social structure that is being established in our new reality. But it is important that we do not allow their stubbornness and selfishness to hinder our entire process, because it is up to us at this moment to shape the way the earth is painted and the future of it and all the souls that inhabit it. Number 8. The awakening of consciousness. This moment of awakening is crucial in the reality we live in and in the destiny we are giving to the collective journey we face as humanity. So it is important to address the aspects that compose the essence of it. Awakening is nothing more than a process through which our being opens up to the truth, to a higher knowledge, and to a state of balance and evolution like never before. Our souls voluntarily chose to descend to Earth, to evolve and grow, so we were invited to experience human experiences from the ignorance of the elevated knowledge that our soul handles, but that at the same time remains within us, in the deepest parts to which only our soul has access. But as we progress on our journey and become more aware of the existence and power of our soul, a wonderful change precipitates upon us that leads to a call to awaken, from which we realize that our being has been undergoing a marvelous journey, from which it has emerged strengthened and filled with wisdom, one to which we now have access through the interaction of our conscious side with the voice of our soul. This is a moment of deep introspection, from which we can adjust within ourselves everything that was somehow out of balance and achieve an internal state of perfection, or at least a very close proximity to perfection. This leads to everything around us changing. As many have pointed out, everything that inhabits our reality is merely a projection of our inner selves and all that we harbour within. According to the teachings of Dolores canon, everything we allow to exist within us eventually takes power over us to manifest in our reality. So whether positive or negative, everything we think, say, and feel eventually takes physical form and becomes present in our lives. It is then when we understand why many of our fears turn into the most frightening realities, and everything becomes a true nightmare from the attention we give to our fears. It's not that we cannot experience fear at one point or another in our existence, but rather that we must learn to transcend them from a place of confidence in ourselves and our process, for from there we will be able to focus on everything we truly desire and consequently make it part of our reality. The moment we awaken to this reality leads us to a profound event from which our being empowers itself and takes control over everything in our lives and in the realities we inhabit. And this is no different when we talk about this collective awakening. Just as each of us has a level of consciousness, together we manage a collective consciousness, which is affected by the individual thoughts we have, as well as the energies we choose to align ourselves with. Although many may not fully accept this, or wish to overlook this part of our reality, this is a verifiable fact, and it implies a huge responsibility both to ourselves and to humanity as a whole. The awakening of consciousness and spirit leads us to take control over these aspects of ourselves, directly contributing significant energy to the process we undergo as humanity and as a society. And although it may be a challenging moment for ourselves and confront us with many aspects of our being, it is important that we face what we experience and undergo both individually and collectively. Despite the great shock that some may experience at first, there is a guarantee of success if we commit to this part of the journey that our soul undertakes. And even more importantly, we must not allow anyone to scare us with catastrophic scenarios born out of the need to halt this profound moment of change and improvement for ourselves, humanity, and the earth in general. Number 9. Freeing ourselves from manipulation. To conclude this immersion in knowledge, rather than discussing an aspect that hinders our change, we must address a part of the process that is necessary to experience and which can represent a significant challenge for some. It is the moment when we must free ourselves from the influences of others and the forms of manipulation they seek to employ on us. As we have already observed, there are individuals with superficial and selfish interests who seek to halt this transformation of humanity at all costs. They understand perfectly well that it implies losing control over humanity and seeing the structures and systems they have created to keep this imminent change in check being torn down. This is something that shakes many people, because indeed there are things we do not appreciate in their true form within our society. Through an awakening of consciousness, we can see them without masks and false facades, coming to understand that the state in which we currently find ourselves has been heavily manipulated by a small group of people seeking power, control, and a superior position over others. This desire of those individuals completely undermines the idea of a society and a space where we can harmoniously manifest our desires, ultimately also undermining the well-being of all humanity. It is no mere coincidence that the realms elevated above ours are anchored in principles of love, peace, unity, compassion, forgiveness, and cooperation, which make the place they inhabit much brighter and perfect, allowing all beings and souls that come from there to be in complete well-being. This is a reality that we too can choose, but it will necessarily require that all souls of humanity commit to themselves and work on those important internal aspects that compose them. And that will only be possible once we determine to work on ourselves and break free from the influences of those individuals who serve as distractions in this process. During this time of deep reflection and acknowledgement of our being, it will be necessary to silence the noise from the outside and allow ourselves to go through this process, guided only by our inner voice, that voice of our soul that encourages us and calls us to be the creators of our reality and of that collective reality which seeks to be established in well-being for all and in harmony with the universe. This is the right, perfect, and exact moment for us to stop giving importance to what a few individuals dictate to us about how harmful or tormenting it could be to challenge the imposed structures, because it is evident that only those who live in fear or benefit from this imbalance can support the failure of our transformation. Let us give ourselves and humanity as a whole the opportunity to experience, as individuals and as a society, a new form of order, balance, and harmony from which we can all manifest our deepest desires, and where each one's reality can coexist in perfect balance. This is truly the destiny of our journey, and this stretch of sabotage is nothing more than the final challenge we must face to fulfill our path and reach that perfect reality. Every soul counts, and it is important that we embrace this moment of change, transformation, and resurgence with love, commitment, and faith as a unity, as humanity, and as responsible beings for what is experienced on our planet Earth. It is time to leave behind everything that scares us and render the manipulations imposed by misguided ideas and unfounded fear of failure ineffective. Because if we are on this path, it is because our soul has led us here, and all souls lead us here in their infinite wisdom. And if you have felt a profound moment of connection from the message I have transmitted to you, please let me know in the comments and support me by giving me a like, because from here, I hope to have been of help for many more souls to join this transformation of the earth. Remember to share this video with all those who need to hear this message, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel where we unite in light, love, compassion, and cooperation. Because together, we will achieve that long-awaited change. Do not forget to activate the notifications because they can help you stay up to date with our upcoming editions, and thus our souls will continue to meet in the distance. We will meet again very soon, and until that moment arrives, I send you much light.